Hello and welcome everybody. I'm Dr. Katherine Horton. Before I say anything further, I just would like to check the audio quality because I'm never quite sure if it works. Okay, it sounds like you guys can hear me okay. I also have to apologize for the background. This is my temporary micro bunker that I sleep under. It's between moving boxes and my old desk, and above that I've got sheets of metal, actually sheets and sheets and sheets. I'm not sure if you can see, but there are many, many different individual sheets of metal, and at this moment in time that is still my recommendation for shielding. Just keep putting layers of metal above your head and keep going. You might also think about putting maybe boxes of metal shavings, you know, irregularly shaped structures made of metal somewhere around you. That's another idea that you can use, but I do not recommend you handling metal shavings without, you know, metal protection gloves, specialist gloves, because they will literally shred your fingers. However, that's also, you know, another way where you can introduce a kind of random scatter into an electromagnetic signal. So that might be something to explore. But up until then, the cheapest way to protect yourself is still with aluminium foil. And then one up is metal shielding, you know, as much as you can get off that. Now, what I would like to do today is I would like to launch the 2019 Holocaust working group. So we started the working group already in 2017, but now we are ramping up operations, okay? Because we're working to a very, very, very tight deadline. So I really want to have court cases rolling in, but really high quality court cases. And there's a lot of learning and preparing we have to do before we get there. And I tell you, it's a lot of work. So unless you get started this weekend, you know, the same applies for me, by the way. I'm inundated with work, but we have to get started this weekend and we have to start picking up speed, and we have to do the things that really have an impact. So we have to collect the right evidence. We have to network with the right people. We have to start putting pressure on the right people, and we need to get into court such that we have each other's backs, okay? And this means that every person who's launching a court case gets the full support from the community. And for that, I would say that we need victim affidavits, we need expert affidavits, we need people to invest their real money into travel expenses to travel to court and support the victim. We need help batting down trolls, and we need help with encouragement, endurance, reference collection, and all this sort of stuff. In other words, we need to organize an army, but we need to organize this in a self-organizing, intelligent kind of way, okay? So this is what this working group is about. And as we're moving forward, I would say this is what I experienced. When you start working, at first it seems hopeless, but when people see that you're actually doing something and you're doing something persistently, suddenly higher and higher quality of people join you, okay? So you need to start, you need to get going first. You need to prove that you know what you kind of know what you're doing, you know where you're heading, and you need to demonstrate to other people that you're absolutely serious, okay? And then help will come to you. This is how it works. And that's because I can guarantee you, no matter who you are, on what corner of the world you are, help will come to you. And that's because there's a huge invisible mass of people around you. You never knew that they exist, and they are just as frustrated as you are, okay? So they will flock to you as soon as you start going. So do not despair if in the past you didn't manage to get a lawyer or legal help, or people didn't help you. That's going to change very, very quickly. And it will surprise you how very quickly that will change. And it is all to do with network mathematics, which is pretty much uncharted territory, even for mathematicians. So anyway, you know, I've got an initial idea of how this is going to pan out. And I can tell you it will be highly nonlinear. So 2019 will be full of surprises. And anybody who tells you they have the model to model what's going to happen in 2019, well, they don't really know anything about maths, because the one thing I can tell you is that there will come a point when nobody can predict what's going to happen next, because this is the highly nonlinear phase of the systems transition. So, you know, you have to get in there. And the good news is that when a system goes highly nonlinear, a small impulse somewhere in the system can have huge effects, okay? In other words, this is the ultimate empowering system state, because no matter how small a player you are, you can just give the right impulse that's going to change history. Okay, and this chance is open to us all. So you better start figuring out what kind of impulses you want to give the system, what you want the world to look like in 2020. This is basically what you need to figure out now, so that in 2019 you can start working towards that. Okay, so this is what this Holocaust working group is about. It's about getting ready for the system transition and also shaping it as we're going along. Okay, and I tell you, what we're undergoing now in the world has never ever been witnessed ever before by humanity. And it's all to do with network maths, with the internet, with the way we are socializing and exchanging information through social media, and what kind of information sources we are consuming these days. This is a total game changer. Okay, so welcome to the new transition. Now let's get to work, okay, because there are a lot of nuts and bolts that we need to get into place. So I am sorry about how I look. It's already 7 a.m. and I haven't slept yet. I am in a bunker, and because I have to be, just to be able to hold the thought under the directed energy weapon gunning. But I tell you, it doesn't matter how bad it looks right now. It's absolutely no predictor of how good it's going to look at the end of the year. Okay, so just hang in there and bear with me, okay, even if I look sometimes a bit chaotic. So what I want to show you first is the starting point. Okay, I want you to know that if you want to follow me or what the hell I am doing, or if you want to communicate to people who the hell I am and what I stand for and what I'm going to do in 2019, there's now a one place where you can go to explain it all in a nutshell. Let me share my screen. If you point people to my website, which is stop007.org, stop007.org, I have now pinned the plan for 2019 right here. Okay, you can start playing this, and this is a video that's over 2 hours long. It links to this video here. Okay, oops, oh, it's still playing. Okay, sorry. Here. Okay, so in this video, you have what I call the battlefield overview. These are all the different organizations that are in deep capture. Later on in the video, I explain why I'm going for court cases, okay, to recapture them. I also explain what a corrupted system looks like and how to capture it. And then at the very end, here, I outline the plan for 2019. So if you really want to know what the detailed plan is going to be with actual timelines here, you watch the last 30 minutes, okay? And if you need guidance of where to go, if you expand the video, you will have a fairly detailed index here, okay? Splitting it into roughly half-hour segments, okay? So this is it. Now, the plan, my personal plan, starts in the last half an hour, and the 1.5 hours before that are just setting the scene, okay? So if anybody has any questions about what I'm doing, the answer is here, okay? Here, right on the front of my website. This is the plan for 2019. And in a nutshell, what I'm trying to do is I'm going to try to recapture a corrupt organization. And a very corrupt organization is, I mean, there are many, many corrupt organizations, okay? Every single one here I list, like the police, Intel, the NSA, military, and so on, banks and contractors, they are all highly corrupt, okay? But there are some places we can recapture and others we cannot recapture. So I'm focusing on the ones we can recapture first. And these are the courts, individual officials. You can recapture your neighbors, their individual researchers and doctors. Here we stand the highest chance. And these are the people I'm focusing on in 2019. As far as I'm concerned, all the people elsewhere, right, like Intel, the police, or the military, I'm not going to hold my breath. If the military helps us, or if Intel gets their head out of their ass at some point to help us, that will be a bonus, but I'm not counting on it. In fact, I prepare myself to be just shafted every which way by exactly these people. Okay, so this is my plan. So in a nutshell, if you want to help me, you join me and you focus on the recapture, on the education and the pulling on board of these people, okay? So individual officials, these are your, whatever, Congress people or representatives or your local council who can help you, the courts, individual doctors, individual researchers, and your neighbors, okay? I think these people, right, have to be our first battle. And when we start making progress with these, we move to other systems. But these are the most altruistic, okay? At the end of the day, there are still many doctors who are in for it because they want to help people. There are many, many researchers who want to help people and find out what's going on. I'm one of them. And there are many neighbors who are just as screwed as you are. So it is in their interest that this genocide is stopped. The same applies to judges, okay, and officials. Not every official is in on it, okay? So you have to find the ones which are really good. And if you can recapture officials and you can give them clout in parliament, in Congress, or wherever, you help to cycle the system. But you need to identify who they are, okay? You need to identify who the bad guys and the good guys are, and that's not that easy, all right? So this is the plan. Now, all of these here are kind of recapturing them as a private effort, okay? So you need to reach out to your representatives and your neighbors, your local research university, and your personal doctors. And you need to start educating them. And that is your job. I can't do it for you, okay? And this is what we need to do in 2019. We need to find an effective way to communicate to these people what the hell's going on and get them on board. Now, with the courts, we actually have to go into court, all right? And for that, what I want to show you is also on my website. If you haven't heard it yet, please go to this and point all new victims to this location here, the new and final affidavit form with explanatory notes. I want all of you victims to now start filling out this affidavit template. And the documents are here. You fill out the middle bit, okay? And please, please, please fill it out in open office format. This one, the PDF version, shows you what the affidavit template looks like, and it's a bunch of tick boxes, okay? Like this. Really easy to fill out, but it helps us to understand what has been done to you, and it helps you to communicate with other victims, and it helps you guys to compare your cases really quickly, okay? So if you want to know what it looks like when an affidavit template is filled out, so as I said, you go here and you also download the explanatory notes like now, because that's a legal document with my signature guaranteeing what this is meant to be, how this is going to be used, and what the goals are. If there are any deviations from this, you can sue me or whoever's deviating, right? For me, what I want to do is clear. I want to go into court and I want to shut down this genocide, and I need your help. So I've put that all in writing and I signed it and I stand by it, okay? So you guys fill out this affidavit template. You don't need to send it to me. If you send it to me in my court case, that's going to help me, but you can send it to many other people as well, or other people who you trust more than me. That's fine. That this there is a public service, okay? But whoever you're going to send it to, or even if you're going to use it for your own court case, you need to fill out the goddamn thing, okay? You need to get started. And the reason why it's the format it is, I tell you why, it's because every single one of your cases, and I've listened to many of them, they would fill thousands of pages if you actually write it down in all the detail. Literally, you know, you get probably assaulted every single day in 2 to 3 different ways. And if you want to, you know, write up 2-3 years of targeting, you're going to fill thousands of pages. So here is a very quick way. And this is what this affidavit template includes. It's like intrusive surveillance, neighborhood terror, stalking, housebreaking, stalking, street theater, but also when you're driving, crimes abroad, computer hacking, your banks being hacked, a million things. Also directed energy weapons, biowarfare, voice to skull, remote neural monitoring, biorobotization, implants, nanotech, neurotech, everything. Also fungi, parasites, and Morgellons. Everything I could think of is in here. And it's a super fast way of comparing cases. And now let me show you, let me go back to my front page and let me show you what the returned affidavits look like and what their power is. So here, the second link are the first victim affidavits that have been submitted. And when you go here, okay, you can see a bunch of people have already submitted them from all around the world. Now, if you click, okay, this is a person who has been assaulted in so many ways. It's incredible. But if you just open it and look at the summary, just from the X's, you can immediately see how this person has been attacked. They suffered intrusive surveillance. Their neighbors were assholes. Their landlords were assholes. There was housebreaking, stalking. They were attacked driving. They were attacked abroad. Their computers got hacked. Their entire life got destroyed, right? And then you can see here, right? If you had your private life sabotaged, like this person, this affidavit is for you, okay? So if, however, you were attacked by directed energy weapons and biowarfare, well, this person hasn't been attacked like that or doesn't know it, okay? But he can't testify about it. So if you're looking for specifically these assaults, you go and you pick another affidavit, okay? And then what you can do after you compared the index, okay, you can jump to a specific section. For example, you jump forward to intrusive surveillance, and you can see that this person has been continuously surveyed overtly since 1999. I mean, this is incredible, right? So this is a signed affidavit under oath. If you have been under overt surveillance, you can use this affidavit in court and say, look, Your Honor, I'm not the only person. I've got signed affidavits under oath, right, that testify to the same thing. So this is how you use these affidavits. You first use the index to find out roughly how these people have been assaulted, and then you can go into detail and you can very quickly look what has been done and how you can quote this case and how it relates to your case and how it can back up your case. Now, what you need to know is, because these things were sent to me confidentially, I am not under liberty to release these people's names, and I shall not do so. What I have written instead, and this is uploaded here, is a document for you to include in your quick court case if you quote any of these affidavits, okay? And it states very clearly that all the affidavits that have been listed on my websites, right, have been submitted to me with a photo ID and under oath, and their signature witnessed by a person entitled to administer oaths, okay? And then at the end of this document, you have my signature. So should anybody question this, they get in touch with me and I talk to the judge, okay? But no judge should be able to question this if you have this and the affidavits. If they've got a problem with me, but with that, they get in touch with me and I can clarify it, okay? So this is how we run it. This was basically the best I could do to get people to come forward and yet guarantee their privacy completely and their identity, okay? So, but for this to be really powerful, I need a lot more people to get their arse into gear, okay? So you need to get started, and I'm telling you, the original affidavit template, which you find on the first link, it is 94 pages, okay? Have a look at it. So even though it's a tick box thing, right, most of it are just tick boxes, you need a couple of weekends to get through this. And if you're working, right, you need to get going now this weekend, right? Otherwise you will not finish in time. And the reason why you really need to get going is here in the plan for 2019. Let me show you the time schedule. It's here. Now the tick box affidavits, should be finished in the winter of 2019. And I tell you, winter ends at the end of February. By March, spring, I want to start filing for emergency injunctions, guys. Get it? So you have only a few weekends to get this, you know, wrapped up. And I know that you're being targeted, and I know that you're working, and I know that things are hard. But anyway, you absolutely must get going. You really must get going, because we are working to a tight schedule, and the longer you leave it, the more ill and the more mutilated you will end up, right? So I want to be in court by spring 2019. And then we file for emergency injunctions, and we say to the intel agencies and the militaries, that is it. We know who is doing it, and you guys are now stopping this, or else you are in contempt of court. And let me just remind you, okay, so I hope so far you guys are following. Let me just throw an eye on the chat to make sure that my audio hasn't gone funny. Let me just check the audio one more time to make sure that, yes, okay, the audio is going. And yes, somebody said hit the like button. Yes, please do hit the like button at the bottom, because then videos that have the like button, you know, hit many times, get promoted better over YouTube, so more people see this information. So anyway, what I want to remind you of is why I'm going for emergency injunctions, and I want to flash up, and I'm, you know, if you followed my videos, you will notice I'm repeating myself, but this is for the best, okay? Because we need to bring everybody up to speed, also those people who haven't maybe followed every single one of my videos. So let me just share my screen and remind you what an injunction is and why it's so important. This is the Wikipedia page on injunctions. Okay, and it says it's a legal and equitable remedy in the form of a special court order that compels a party to do or refrain from specific acts. And this is now the important thing. When a court employs the extraordinary remedy of injunction, it directs the conduct of a party and does so with the backing of its full coercive powers. In other words, if we want to stop the intel agencies from doing something, we need the court's full coercive powers. And courts do have the power to compel government to do something or refrain from doing something. Okay? Now, if you are new to court cases and you think that it's all just a lost cause and this is impossible, please let me point you to the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom. And the reason why I point you here is because this is actually a very, very good court, in a sense that all its cases are being broadcast. Okay, so if you, during the sittings, you can click on watch the live Supreme Court live, and then you can watch all these things. For example, on the 24th, there was this case here. You can watch them live. Now, what you can also do is go to decided cases up here, and for the entire existence of this new constituted Supreme Court since 2009, you can see all the cases, and you can see what type of cases there were. And if you go through, you will find many who are against the government or government agency, right? At the Supreme Court level. It goes on and on and on and on. So you can see who is suing whom and who has reached the highest level. But even more than that, if you find a court case that interests you, I just clicked on something per random, you can see the judgment here. Okay, you can read the judgment, but also you can click on these links and you can re-watch the entire Supreme Court session live. I'm just going to play a few seconds of this so that you can see what it looks like. I'm not allowed to actually, you know, broadcast any material from here, so I shan't. I just want like to flash some images so you can see the barristers, you can hear them, you can see the Supreme Court judges. At some point, it sometimes changes to when they ask a question, you can see the Supreme Court judges, but you can see the entire pleadings, okay? So you can replay the whole thing, and you can do this for an entire year, all the cases. So if you have any questions about what it sounds like to be before a judge, you have hours and hours of material here where you can find out how the best barristers in the world talk when they appear before the Supreme Court in the United Kingdom. Okay? You have it right here. This is perfect training material because you can find out their manner of speaking, okay? And you can find out how you should sound, what's okay to say, how people argue, and what their reasoning is like. I have to warn you, because listening to any of these cases, you might just stop having a pulse because it's so boring. So it takes an absolutely extraordinary amount of stamina to stay awake, and you have to have very thick skin to cut through the jargon. But there are some cases with really excellent barristers which are compelling precisely because the barristers have a no bullshit way of talking. Okay, they do not use jargon, they cut to the core, and they say, this is what needs to be done, da, 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 da. And this is exactly how you should talk as well, okay? Especially when it's about an ongoing silent genocide, because time is of the essence, and frankly, we do not have time to be ninnying around with some legal jargon. We need to cut to the core of these cases and have these crimes stopped, okay? So do not be disheartened. Just get a feel for it and see, and also see the volume of paper that these people process. It is extraordinary. When I went and I actually visited the High Court case in 2011, I was astounded that the High Court had special minions with special trolleys to just carry all the bundles. These were, cardboard boxes filled, literally. I think one cardboard box holds, I think, about 10 bundles, so ring binders. And they would have just, these trolleys stacked so high for one case alone. It was mind-blowing, okay? Now, that's the amount of stuff that these people can process. They can process complex stuff and so on. But it gives you a very good idea of how that system works, okay? So you should get a feel for it before you enter the court cases, all right? And do not allow the Supreme Court cases to intimidate you and you think, oh my God, I could never talk like that, because most of them are, frankly, remember that these barristers are paid by the hour. So they do not have an interest in making things appear simple, So you don't have to sound like them, but you get a feel for, how the whole thing works. And you also get a feel for the questions of the judges. All right. So very important. Now, this is your mental preparation for these court cases. All right. And why it's important. So you have all the tools that you need. So right now, the most important thing is to fill out these affidavits. And that is the bottleneck, the limiting factor. All right. So what I need you to do is I need you to set an example, to fill them out and to get going. And then when many, many people have filled out these affidavits and the victim community, can compare cases really quickly, it's much easier to network and find people with similar court cases to yours. Because once you have these affidavit templates, you have talking points, and you can just all bring your templates and have a working group and compare whose case matches whose. So who should pair up with whom to start, preparing their court cases and start collecting evidence and start referencing each other. All right, this is what this is for. This is a communication method, these affidavits. All right. Now, when the tick box survey is finished and we start getting, into court for emergency injunctions, after that, I want the full details of the affidavits, everything that has ever been done to you, with all the names and all the evidence that you have. Okay, but for you to have evidence by the summer, you need to start collecting evidence now. So the next thing I would like to do is start talking to you about evidence and what you should do this year as quickly as possible. So let me share my screen. There are a couple of things that you need to, you really need to figure out. Number one, if you have implants or odd pains, wherever they might be in your body, you might have implants. Okay, they can be injected when you're sleeping and a million other things, So there's a certain set of things you need to do to prove implants. And then, of course, if you're assaulted with directed energy weapons, there's a set of things that you need to do to prove directed energy weapon assaults. When you're being assaulted with neurotech and synthetic dreams and so on, you will be assaulted most likely by a combination of implants and directed energy weapon assaults. Okay, so neurotechnology for me is a combination of these two. If you know how to prove one and the other, you will be able to, you know, start building up to these neurotechnology assaults. If you have really funky symptoms, okay, like really out there, and you don't think you can measure them, do not despair. This is again what the affidavits are for. Then all you need to do is collect enough victims who have experienced exactly the same thing to testify under oath that this is really being done. And then you can also prove a very, very complex phenomenon, okay? That is the entire point of these affidavits, to prove what the intelligence agencies thought would be impossible for us to prove, okay? It is basically putting, you know, their neck in a noose in a very intellectual sort of way. So that's what this is about. So let's start talking about measurement, okay? So let me share my screen and show you what I have assembled on measurement. I want you guys to now, either you have something better than what's listed here, which is fine and which exists, okay, and then you do that. Or if you haven't got anything better, you start working off this list, okay? You pick the cheapest thing that you can afford and you start with that. Now, what everybody, all of you should be able to afford are logbooks, okay? So let me go through the list. I want you all to start writing things down on paper. For every day, you have a logbook entry with date here, you know, the times, at what time did it happen? And for every day, fill a detailed log of what has been done to you. Now, if you're a victim for 20 years and you've done it for 3 years, well, it's enough if you just do a refresher for a week or so to prove that this is still going on. But if you've never done it, you have to have a handwritten version with an actual, where people can see that you filled it out over several days and weeks to prove that this is really going on, okay? Please document everything, all the voice to skull, all the odd pains, all the shots to various body parts, have an actual detailed thing. And I can tell you that for me, something happens every 2 minutes. And if it happens every 2 minutes, then writing a logbook is a task in itself. Well, then take the weekend, and that will be your task, to start filling this logbook. For 2 days on the weekend, you write a detailed listing. Okay, even if it's time consuming, you just do it, so that we start having these logbook entries and we can prove to the judges how frequent and non-stop these assaults are, you know, bearing down on us. Very important. Then the next one up, depending on, you know, if you can afford it, is an audio recorder, because you will start collecting evidence, you will start going to the police, and I want to nab every single last fucking police officer on the planet. I want them by the balls. And the best way to do that is to record what these lying criminals are saying. All right? If they threaten you, if they reject your cases, or if they give you any bullshit, you need to be able to covertly record these bastards, okay? For that, an audio recorder is just perfect. If you can find a cheaper one, that's great. This is my favorite device because it has been a trusty friend in so many situations. Then the other thing, so lots of information also, record pulsed energy projectiles. If you're being hammered and you have a lot of pain, okay, gosh, I haven't got my my aluminium foil here, but I'm talking about box standard baking foil, guys. Normal aluminium foil that you can buy for $2 or €2 in the shops. That is actually excellent detection material. What I want you to do is, if you're being burned, you can block it out with just 1 to 2 layers of aluminium foil. If they burn your body parts at night, you can protect yourself by having actual aluminium foil. Mylar is too thin. That's just sprayed on, I don't know what, like aluminium ersatz. You know, it's worth nothing. Forget these Mylar blankets. You need actual aluminium. Now, you can build yourself a blanket by taping aluminium on top of each other, and I have survived many assaults doing exactly that. Now, this is uncomfortable, but if you're being, shot at from the neighbors above, then that is really your best method, the cheapest method. So you start taking aluminium and you're making a blanket by taping layers of aluminium on top of each other. And the thicker the aluminium, the better. Okay. And make sure that these layers overlap. Now, that is great because the burning should be blocked completely, because that seems to be just simple microwaves. And there's a second way of being assaulted, which is pulsed energy projectiles. Now, that, devilish stuff goes through many layers of aluminium sheets. But if you have aluminium foil, especially when it's crumpled up, it seems to deposit energy and it makes that aluminium foil pop. It makes a popping sound, an impact sound that you can hear. And what you do then is you can hang aluminium foil around yourself if you're working, or you just put it above yourself. And when you're sleeping, you hold it around yourself. And when they start gunning you, you will hear the guns. That's very important. This is how I managed to convince myself that this is not my implants. This is actual real shots being fired at me. You can also sometimes figure out the direction from which the shots are coming. So depending on, how the aluminium moves, because the more energetic shots will move the foil. And I've made videos about that. So aluminium is actually a great line of defense and also great for evidence collection. If you use aluminium, you can combine it with a camera, film the aluminium. I've got films where you can see it being shot in my face. It literally moves into my face. I have videos where you can see shots putting a dent into aluminium foil. So you can use a camera, but at night, you probably don't want to leave the lights on all night long, to film. That might make it even harder to sleep. So instead, what I would recommend is you take your audio recorder and you record the shots. So if you're sleeping, one can hear you breathe rhythmically, for 6 or 8 hours. And then the machine gunning with pulsed energy projectiles typically sounds like a patter of rain on a roof, on a metal roof. So if you've got aluminium around you, then this patter is audible. Okay. And I have literally hours and hours of recordings like that. And I have to say, the first time I recorded this, I was just amazed, because I realized that they were gunning me all right when I was going to sleep. But then after they realized I'd fallen asleep using my head chips, after falling asleep, after about like an hour and a half, the gunning that would start up was out of this world. I mean, it was just like, literally like electromagnetic machine gunning all out. And then I realized, oh, I see. What they're doing is that they're trying to damage my organs while I sleep. They're trying to give me cancer. Okay, and maybe there's a drone overhead that's now giving my dear neighbors backup and is really, raining down these shots on me. Could also be. But it was just extraordinary. And I would have never known had I not done these recordings. Okay, so much about directed energy weapons. Let's now get to measurement. Okay, so, oh yes, telephone pickup microphones in case you, want to record telephone conversations and so on. I'm not going to go through everything. Please read what everything is for here. I want to skip down to the measurements, blah, 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 blah here. If you have $180, I really recommend you buy this little device. It's the cheapest, the most robust, and the most versatile I have found so far. It doesn't give you directionality, but it gives you an audio output. And with that, you can recognize the shape of the sound on which translates into the waveform that's used in the assault. This little thing was the best educational tool for me, okay? And it's not even from the LED readings. It's because if you press the button once, it comes on. If you press it twice, it gives you an audio output, which is the, it's kind of like the waveforms translated into audio waves. It makes the assault audible. And you can also figure out what the signal sounds like for your Wi-Fi router, for your cordless telephone, for your TV remote control, and so on. And your mobile phone, So this is very important. And then suddenly you will find signals when you're being attacked that sound nothing like what you have heard before. And this particular device goes from 200 megahertz to 8 gigahertz. So if Richard Lighthouse is correct, and the tracking pulse is at 3 gigahertz, thereabouts, you can hear this with this thing. Okay, there's a more expensive version of this, but I don't think most people need it, frankly. The two dials are a direct mapping from one to the other. So I would just recommend going with the cheapest and start learning with the signal. Now, this is more advanced. You maybe don't need it. It's very expensive as well. This is very advanced and very expensive. But then the next one up is a bug detector. And this is probably, there are better bug detectors that are much cheaper. And if so, people, please do measurements and send me the measurements, send me the link to the videos so that I can maybe start trying different bug detectors as well that are maybe cheaper and just as good, okay? But I do need video evidence before I buy one, okay? Now, the bug detectors can be used, so this is like $200 or 170 euros. They can be used to find your body implants. And you guys need to get going with this, okay? So here is evidence videos of me using the bug detector, and there's a detailed description of what you need to watch out for. There are 5 points you need to watch out for, all described here. And people have already sent me videos like this. There was Frederic Laroche in France who proved that he is implanted and his mother is implanted, which is very, very important for the court cases going forward, okay? But you can get this evidence yourself as well. It takes a bit of training to figure out how to do this, but it's not that bad, okay? If you have a day on the weekend, I think within 20 minutes, you can figure out how to use this. So, I really, really recommend it. The most important thing is that you start investigating, guys, okay? You don't sit on your hands and you don't wait for me to sort it out for you, because I cannot generate the evidence for you. You need to do it. Now, this is for implants. This is the best thing I know at the moment for implants, okay? Then the next one is the thermal camera. This is so ludicrously expensive. I would recommend you just borrow one. And frankly, you can only see the implants if you have been a long-term victim and they are really ramping them up, okay? Or they really specially assault you. For example, they did that with me over Christmas. They literally cooked the tissue in my knees from the inside. Then you can see the chips very clearly, actually. But the situation has to be extreme. Sometimes I'm being assaulted with my head chips and the thermal camera cannot see the chips because the infrared resolution, the temperature resolution isn't high enough. Okay. So, but I have seen evidence videos with just the FLIR C2 camera that proves that, you can also see head implants on the skull, on the scalp. Not brain implants on the scalp. Now, the cheapest thing you can get, if you get synthetic dreams and very vivid dreams or visual hallucinations, you probably have an eye implant. The detection method for this is dirt cheap. It is just a $10 US ultraviolet torch. It is that dirt cheap because the entire deception is based on the fact that none of us can possibly imagine to have been implanted with military contact lenses that are perfectly transparent under visible light, as you can see here, but will make your pupil reflect in turquoise under ultraviolet light. If you see funky colors under ultraviolet light, like bright turquoise, it means you most likely have an eye implant. And that will be a very thin, transparent lens placed on your eyeball. Do not try to scrape it out, please, because there might be nanotechnology tentacles holding onto your lens, and I don't want you to damage your eye, okay? But please first get the evidence. So I want you guys to start doing this, and also Geiger counters, this one is bloody expensive. But if you're being assaulted with radioactivity, which is different from electromagnetic waves because it's ionizing radiation, in that case, a Geiger counter can give you evidence that is worth gold. The other thing is these Geiger counters can also detect X-ray surveillance. it seems to be the case that my home is being pulsed with about, I would say 80 microsievert per hour. And this is the unit that gets displayed here. So the measuring gap is like a little, I don't know what's like a little time window. But it doesn't really matter. What I'm saying is that there are sharp pulses of radioactivity flashing my home at regular intervals. And the source for this doesn't seem to be ambient nor cosmic, because there's cosmic radiation, because it's always the same bloody value. You know, it seems to be a machine doing this. So I suspect that indoor surveillance is also using X-ray, you know. But anyway, with these Geiger counters, it's better if you actually borrow one. Okay, so this is now all I want to say about these measuring devices, okay? But what I really want you to understand is that if you want to collect evidence, you start off with getting the really cheap stuff. So this would be an ultraviolet torch for $10 to check if they put anything in your eye. You get yourself a bug detector, if you can, for $100 or $200. But if that's too much for you, then you should club together with other victims, and then you get one together. And that's maybe even better, because if you're in a group, you can learn together how to do this. You can see where your implants are, and I guarantee you, your implants will be in the same spot with every victim. So you guys get started, and the implants are easiest to find in the neck and on the back of the head. So Melanie Richan taught me this, and she's absolutely right. Since then, I've used it many times. If you can't find the implants, you start with the neck and the back of the head, or even here, the top of the head. So somewhere here will be the big whooping emitter that is controlling the entire body area network. But I want you guys to get going now. So you fill out the affidavit template, and meanwhile you start you start learning how to collect evidence. You start writing in your logbooks to get, evidence that the NSA cannot hack. And then you also please photograph your logbooks so that it can't be just stolen and then the whole thing disappears. But I need you to get started with this now, okay? Please. And if you don't have money, that's fine. You need to start opening crowdsourcing pages. You need to go to GoFundMe or your favorite crowdsourcing website. You need to get onto Twitter, and you need to tell us about your plight, and you need to tell us that you need money. You need to tell us what you need the money for, okay? Because there are many, many people in the background who are VIPs and they cannot come forward, but they have the money. And we will gradually start mobilizing them as well. And if you tell them, look, we need $60 or $200 for this measuring device, $200 are peanuts for a lot of people in the world who are also implanted. Okay, so if you can get going with this, we can start recruiting help for you to get money to your case. And what will be extremely important also for VIPs is that we get enough, we get a solid base of very well documented cases with top-notch evidence. Ideally, the same type of evidence so that the judge can see, yep, that's the same. Oh yeah, here, another one, And in a sense, there are many people who want to come forward, but because of the position they are in, if they lose their job, that's even worse for us because they're kind of on our side. Okay, so if you don't have anything to lose, like me, and it's fine if you start talking about implants, it's very important that you start collecting evidence, you come forward with the evidence, and we start building a very solid base of cases. And then when we have the first successes in court, more and more high-profile people will come forward. Okay, I guarantee you, and I already know some of them, and I already know about why they can't come forward. So, and they have told me that many people in their respective professions are in the same boat. So, they're all kind of waiting for the vocal people to do the first step. And that's okay. So one of us has to just go first, and some people don't mind, going public and actually presenting their case publicly, but they have huge problems with money. And there are other people who have absolutely no problems with money, but literally cannot go public. They could never do that. So we need to kind of pair you up, in a way. And I'm working on this. But for that, I need to be able to show the people with money where the real cases are, that need their support, their financial support, so that we can start moving forward in the courts, you know? So this is the plan. Now, this was just about measurement. The other thing I want you guys to do now is to start getting in touch with doctors, okay? If you have very sophisticated torture, you know, all across your body, you need to start getting x-rays, MRIs, or CT scans, and then you need to start scanning those CT scans, because you know best where the pain is and what it feels like, and you don't need convincing that implants exist. So you need to start scanning your CT, MRI, and x-rays for anything unusual. You need to go to the library. You need to look up any sort of medical resources, what a normal x-ray looks like, and you need to start looking for anything odd. Meanwhile, I'm trying to educate the doctors and bring them on board. But for that, to be able to educate them, I need to be able to show them real life certified implants. Okay. So we need to get started with the MRIs and the CT scans. And then my experience is that victims do much quicker progress than doctors, because victims know exactly that they have a foreign body in them. They know exactly that they're being tortured. They do not need any convincing, and they are not brainwashed by any preconceptions about medicine or how medicine is meant to work. Now, with doctors, some of them really have difficulties, and a lot of them haven't realized that what they have diagnosed as calcifications for the last 20 to 30 years were in fact CIA implants. You know, and all those calcifications were actually emitting radio frequencies all along, and they just didn't know about it. So I'm still having a hard time with that, but I don't have a hard time with the victims. So, you know, again, we need to start meeting in the middle somehow. But for the scans, okay, so very important, x-rays, CT scans, and MRIs. And depending on the implant and where it is, it depends which method gives you the best results. It depends on what sort of shadows the bones are making, how big the implant is, and what material is made of, and a million other things. So I don't know what scan will be best for you. You know, get the scans you can get. And then the other thing is start looking into ultrasound, which is very cheap. Now, ultrasound, I already have first initial indications that ultrasound might be the top way to detect implants in the genitals. And that's because the genitals are mostly soft tissue, okay? And there, a little hard implant will cause a huge reflection on ultrasound, okay? And talking to some women who are being raped with implants, there was a consensus that, for example, ultrasounds seem to show odd calcifications exactly where you would want to put implants to rape a woman. So, you know, what I would say is it's very, you know, very easy and not very sophisticated or very onerous to get an ultrasound. So if you ladies could get in touch with your gynecologists and just say you want an ultrasound, it's probably very easy to procure. And then you yourself look for any calcifications and ask the doctor for the calcifications and identify them all, because I suspect that there will be a pattern. Now, the orgasmatron that's advertised by the BBC, right, as a technology that you can use to induce orgasms, and they are selling it as something oh so amazing, right? Well, that is an implant in the spine. But from my own case and how these things are working, I would say that there are also always implants in the genitals, not least because the intelligence agencies are a bunch of sex perverts, and they would just love the opportunity to implant a woman in the genitals, right? So they would do it, right? If they have the opportunity, they would do it 10 times over. And I'm pretty sure that they did with me 10 times over. So I'm pretty sure we should find some chips in the genitals of most people who are rape victims. Now, for the guys, I think you have to, you know, go and talk to your urologist, but in principle, the same thing applies, right? You can also get an ultrasound. And please get going with this, because this is no joking matter. It's, first of all, of course, they use rape to humiliate people, to cause sexual trauma, but also these things are radio emitters, and with time they cause cancer. So we need to get these fucking things back out, right? Or they need to be switched off, but we need to really pin them down. So, you know, please get networking with the doctors as well. So I mentioned the ultrasounds, and then the other thing I want to mention is dermatologists, right? Especially those who are specializing on cosmetic surgery of the face, because in facial cosmetic surgery, you use laser scalpels a lot. Laser surgery scars cause very, very fine scars that sometimes look like skin folds. Now, I have several laser surgery scars on my forehead. If you met me in real life, you could see them with the naked eye, right? I have, you know, because my entire forehead is absolutely filled with chips. But you will have them, right? And they need some sort of access. So look at this in this area for laser surgery scars. Also look in the neck. Maybe, I mean, anything above the hairline is kind of hard to see, but maybe an expert, you know, can actually see it. But also look elsewhere on your body. Okay, so for women in the breast region is very important. All the ladies who maybe had, you know, any sort of breast enlargement or breast operations, they love to put them in then because they also have access to the heart. Okay, so if you had any sort of breast surgery and now have really odd heartbeat, it's most likely a heart chip, because they can use the same thing to access your heart. Okay, so breast implants, so breast chip implants, RFID chip implants are easily put in during breast surgery. Heart implants the same, but you don't need to have had breast surgery to have these chip implants, you know. So, and I can tell you, so when they put them in, you know, whenever you will have little, so if you didn't have a breast operation, you'll have little scars, laser surgery scars on the skin. And typically they put in the implants on the side of the breasts, on the bottom as well. And yeah, anywhere in the region of the heart. So, you know, but you will have probably like half a dozen of chips. So you need to start looking for that as well. And you can probably use, again, ultrasound, right? Because it's soft tissue, again. So maybe that's an avenue to explore. But I really need data, people. I need a lot of cases, and you need to be able to educate me about the outcome. You can do it anonymously. I don't mind. You know, you can send me medical scans anonymously or just emails anonymously. That's fine. But I need to be able to, you know, start knowing what to investigate and what to look for. And I need to teach doctors as well. Okay, so I mentioned all of these things, medical scans. Yes, now, this is just the investigation, okay, and the collecting of evidence. Now, there's many other hands-on things that we can do to advance this whole entire process. And by the way, I have to apologize because when I'm talking, I find it very hard to keep an eye on the chat. So guys, I need to read the chat later on. I probably won't have time doing it now. But what you can do to fight back is much, you know, you can do many more things that are highly effective. And maybe things that you haven't even thought about. Okay, so let me show you a couple of things. Yes, okay, now I know. Okay, now let me share my screen and let me show you. So first of all, okay, before I get into the highly effective things that you can do, I want to show you a couple of, or I want to show you one live running American court case that involves targeting and an entrapment operation. Okay, so maybe you have already seen it, maybe you haven't. Recently, I interviewed Michael Barden, who is, so he was in the US military. He's a small business owner, you know, family father, and he's also target. He was now involved in a very involved entrapment operation that, you know, the police in the US put on. It's absolutely extraordinary and really out there, but his case is massive. Okay, so there's a long interview with him. And what I wanted to say is many of you are working and you have a long commute and you really don't have time to, maybe you have kids and you don't have time to, you know, keep up to date with all these interviews, one tip, one of the things that you can do is you can just copy these URLs, and you can go to online video converter, for example, here, and then you can download the MP3 version. You can download the MP4, the video format, or just the audio. And then what I would recommend is that you just put it on your MP3 player, and you maybe get a Bluetooth thing or whatever, and then you listen to it on the radio as you're driving to work, right? If you have a half-an-hour commute, or if you have an hour commute, then you can listen to the radio, which is going to pump you into trance with their trance music, or it's going to feed your brain with bullshit and their news reports, so-called news reports, or else you can, you know, wake yourself up on the way in the morning by hearing about these cases. Okay, so try to use all the dead time that you have, or maybe, you know, you are, I don't know what, you're ironing. Start listening to these things and start keeping up to date with the ongoing issues, and teach other people how to do it. Teach your grandma how to use YouTube, okay? And get them onto the programs that really matter. And most importantly, for going forward, the court cases, the litigation is extremely important. It is what's going to save our lives in a non-violent way. Okay, to put it like this, there's only court cases and military operations, and I really prefer court cases. So we need everybody to be up to speed about these things. We need you to be able to be informed so that you can put pressure on the judges and on the politicians and on the police services involved. Okay, so please start downloading, especially when it's about litigation. Download it on MP3, put it on your MP3 player, listen to it as you're going on walks or whatever, but, you know, start getting up to speed with these things. The other thing I want to say is please subscribe to globalistwatch.com. Now, Google Plus is going to be shut down in August. And by then, I want us to pull out all the important references that we can use for court. Okay, very, very, very important. There are excellent interviews here that you need to hear. If you're stuck for information material, right, to keep yourself up to speed, I really recommend this page. I'm posting here, other people are posting here, and this, it's vast, okay, absolutely vast. You can go to globalistwatch.com, and it's going to divert you to this Google Plus group. And then here are all the different topics: UN, Agenda 21, the research library with references, banking and finance, neuroscience, neurotorture, and a million other things. Fighting back, you know, all this sort of stuff. And what I also want you to do is start going through the links, and especially when you find good links that can be quoted in court, either an interview that has a very important passage, or because it links to a declassified document or a news report, please start pulling these out and start making your reference list. So globalistwatch.com is a huge resource, absolutely massive, and not even I know, I think less than 1% of what's on here. And we really need to start going through. If you like something, please press the +1 so that we start crowd sourcing where the important resources are, you know? So let's start going through these things. Excellent interview with Katherine Austin Fitz, for example. You know, I will just +1 it straight away. And this thing, oops, sorry. And the link next to it is for sharing. So this is a very, very important resource, and there are many, many others out there. If you know of a good resource, please start tweeting it. Now, talking about resources, what I also want you to draw your attention to is, I think, an excellent BitChute channel called Glow Radio. So this is the Globalist Watch Radio, and there are some excellent films uploaded here. Okay, film material, and every single thing that's up here has something to do with targeting or with how to fight back. Okay, so it's all important. and there's also music and many, many other things, okay? For example, here, there's an excellent documentary, The Minds of Men. This is a documentary by Aaron and Melissa Dykes, hugely important, right? Very important. Watch it here or watch it on Aaron and Melissa Dykes' channel. But the other thing I want to draw your attention to specifically, and this is your homework, guys, I want you all to watch They Live, this one here, okay? All of you. And you will see the storyline, and I don't want to, put in any spoilers, but this is hugely important for understanding the deep state and understanding psychopaths and how they have been with us all our lives. And this is probably the best film I know to explain it to people, what this looks like. And once you all watch this film, I can analyze it and I can talk more about how this is revealing a lot of things about the cartel that are very important. But I want you to just watch this. I mean, I watched it for the first time when it was uploaded onto this channel, and it blew my mind. It really did. So please watch it. Okay, this is not just a film. This is a documentary. It's an actual bit of education that we can all go through. Okay, now the other thing I want to say is talking about your reach, you can really amplify your reach if you get onto Twitter and you start tweeting at politicians and you start retweeting. So if you see good tweets, please start hitting the retweet button. Don't just hit like. Like is like your personal bookmark, and like helps to encourage victims and to really up their tweets, so that search engines show them up. But retweeting is super powerful, because as soon as you hit retweet, you potentially mobilize your thousands of followers or hundreds of followers. That is extremely important. And also start following each other back. Now, I have been really busy and I have been neglecting Twitter, and especially I have been neglecting the follow back. And what I want to do is I want to go back and I want to start following people back so that we start building up clout, because in 2019, we need to have entire information campaigns as the court cases are rolling in. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is you can use Twitter. There's also Gab, which has the odd URL gab.ai. But, all of these social media things are being poured over by AI. So I'm not really, one is no worse than another. But what we really need to get to is a way to communicate. So these guys can monitor us as much as they like. As long as we get through to people, we are still winning. Okay? So do not underestimate the power of the retweet and the power of posting a YouTube video you like and you find informative on your Facebook, on your social media. So this war is most effectively fought by you mobilizing network mathematics. This is reaching out to all your followers and using the 3.5 degrees of separation. So the 3.5 degrees of separation, for those people who do not know, is it used to be the 6 degrees of separation before Facebook and before the internet. So this is, if you have a network, how many hops do you need to connect, or on average, to connect to every person on the planet? So who needs to forward your message to somebody they know, who will then forward it in turn to somebody they know before you reach, for example, the Dalai Lama or the President of the United States or whoever? And this is about who knows whom, who's listening to whom, who has got a connection to whom. Now, it used to be 6 degrees of separation in human society in the 20th century. And then the internet came and Facebook came, and now it's 3.5 degrees of separation. In other words, there are only 3.5 hops on average between you and any other person on the planet. Anybody in China, anybody in the US, anybody anywhere. So this connectedness means that now you can reach people a lot quicker than you realize. Okay, and if you think about a network and who's following whom, there are some people who are so-called supernodes in networks. Okay, A supernode is somebody who has a lot of connections. On Twitter, it would be, you know, somebody who has maybe 1 million followers or more, or 65 million followers, whatever. That is a supernode. If a supernode retweets your tweet and you only have 100 followers, suddenly your message gets spread to everybody, you know? So in other words, the bigger your account, the more of a social responsibility you have to start retweeting important messages, no matter how small the account is that is sending you valuable information. Okay. And it also means that if you start following each other and you start keeping an eye on each other, you know, you can really start making progress. So I would recommend that you start building up your followers on Twitter, you start reaching out, you start, you know, tweeting at people randomly to get them interested in this topic. And another trick is to go to very popular YouTube videos, like music videos, and start posting on there, but kind of make it relevant. So one tip would be, go to any modern music video and it will contain a lot of Illuminati signaling. It will contain so much cartel signaling, it's ludicrous. And then start, you know, making references to those symbols that everybody can see are there. Start talking about the cartel. Start talking about neurotechnology targeting, for example. You know, maybe start talking about how, you know, MK Ultra and neurotechnology is something that is also affecting these performers and these stars, you know. So basically get in there and use the fact that these YouTube accounts are supernodes. In other words, a lot of people are watching them, and sneak them in. And then you can also go either by followers or by high specialty interest groups. So you can have very specialist YouTube videos, and then what you're going for is not exactly numbers, but the very high focus of the people who are watching the videos, you know. You can do the same thing with political videos, political commentary, any YouTube videos put out by the newspapers. You can make comments on news articles. A lot of platforms allow that, and really start making use of that. And also back people up and say your opinion, you know, because be aware that by now all of our brains are being surveyed. So yeah, I mean, I stopped caring. I don't care if they know my political opinion, because this is a war, right? And we're now in the phase where we're going through a massive nonlinearity. And I know that we're going to win this war through networks. It is through network connectivity. And they can survey me as much as they like. It's not going to change anything. Okay, so now in 2019, you have to get vocal. You have to start spamming, not spamming, but you know what I mean. You have to start putting all these messages out. You have to start hitting the like button. You have to, yeah, why don't you start now? If you like what I'm saying, hit the like, please, and subscribe, okay? Subscribe, because as soon as you subscribe, it will flash up any new videos I'm putting out. And I can keep you up to date with the court cases. But please do the same thing with other victims. Hit subscribe and hit the like button. And it is absolutely excellent for moral if you write a short, very positive message like, oh, this was awesome, we need more. Because you have no idea how hard it is for victims to keep going while they're being assaulted. Okay? And I will try to do the same thing as well. I think in 2017 and 18, I was just so busy, I neglected it. And a lot of people are probably in my situation. But there's no excuse anymore in 2019. If I see a video, I will comment on it, I'll like it, and I'll subscribe. And then we need to, you know, we start moving forward. So this is what I wanted to tell you. Posting, commenting, liking, retweeting, and using your social network. Now, one of the things, yes, the other thing is tweet alliances, tweeting and commenting alliances. You know how these trolls work, right? I mean, you can watch my YouTube videos, and in the comment section, I don't censor anything. I don't censor anything. Sometimes the algorithms put some things into the spam and I don't see it, okay? But I don't sense anything. And the reason why I don't is because I want people to start learning how to spot the trolls. I don't want to be, you know, big daddy or big mommy going through and wiping your asses and telling you, oh, that's a troll. No, that one's okay. you know, because I can't. I sometimes don't know who's a troll and who isn't. But I really, really want is for you guys to start learning how to spot these and how to rebut them. And I am so pleased to see that on my YouTube channel alone, there was this massive turn-on curve. So in 2017, when I started, there was very, very few people, you know, who would bat down a troll. And now sometimes the trolls I can see just clear away, because as soon as they open their mouth, there's an onslaught. And there's another thing you need to know. You have to tell these trolls, and you have to also do it, you have to screenshot them, because every username is connecting to an IP address that is known to the NSA, right? The computers know where to send the messages from. So there's no such thing as an anonymous device connecting to the internet. This is impossible, okay? Because the infrastructure needs to know from where to send the message from A to B for you to see and interact with the entire infrastructure, right? So that nobody's anonymous. Nobody, least of all the trolls, because they typically connect to government IP addresses, okay? So, or to just some troll factory set up by GCHQ and stuff like that. That doesn't matter. We'll just screenshot them. We'll have all the time in the world, because we know that this data is being stored forever in Bluffdale, thanks to the NSA's international archives, you know, and we can just subpoena this information through court cases. So we can find out who these trolls were. We can find out where exactly the IP addresses were. We can find out who paid them and who was just throwing all this psychological terrorism at Holocaust victims. So please start screenshotting all the comments in the chat that you think are out of order. Please start screenshotting the comments below the YouTube videos that you think are out of order. Note down the usernames. Do the same thing with your channels. And, you know, I had a great uncle who says, you don't have to react emotionally. You just have to sue them. And that's exactly what we shall do. So don't react emotionally, and know that any negative comment, unless it's constructive, unless it's like, oh, well, I didn't like this, why don't you do that? That's okay. But anything that's really negative and trying to destroy you, it's not a real person. It's not, it's either a bot or it's somebody, some dipshit dropout who is hired to do that sort of crap. And then you need to know that you're like up here and there are vermin somewhere down there, and you need to help me finish them off. Okay, because they're getting government money to do this bullshit. So please screenshot and know that we are dealing with individual players. So it's individuals or individuals programming botnets, but it's individuals all along. And we need to find these individuals, and we can. Okay, so just have the patience and screenshot. Now, the other thing I wanted to say, yes, Twitter alliances, start ganging up together, start backing each other up. If you have a really important tweet, tell your friends by maybe other social media, you know, and say, look, can you guys retweet this? It's really important for me. And let me give you one example of stuff that's really important. And I really want you guys to retweet, and let's see if I can, you know, mobilize anybody to back me up. And I'll explain to you why I need your backup on this one. I would like to take you to my Twitter page, and I would like to show you a couple of very important tweets. So this here is now Ben Thompson, okay, tweeting the following very important point to Kevin Shipp. He says, I'll bet, what procedures do we have in place to assure our politicians aren't being adversely affected and their judgment clouded by neuroweaponry? What agency is in charge of ensuring that that doesn't happen? What safeguards are in place to ensure they are doing an effective job? Right? And included is a drone with a directed energy weapon here at the front. So this is a very good point. But it goes much, much deeper than that, because it goes to the heart of the fact that these politicians pretended not to care about directed energy weapon assaults and about neurotechnology assaults on normal people. But I tell you, and by the way, the same thing applies to financial advisors, but I tell you that the biggest bucks are in the control of politicians and in the control of financial advisors, of asset managers, right? Any person who can make important decisions. And I guarantee you, if the cartel has now chipped and neuroteched single moms, right, in some suburb around the world, they will have chipped our politicians to the hilt. Okay, and the same with financial advisors. If you're a businessman and you have slept at the hotel, right, you are most likely implanted, because the monetary benefits from neuroteching you are huge. So what I really want people to do is, on this very important tweet, please start hitting the retweet button. If you hit like and retweet, that's maximum effect, right? And you can retweet it with a comment. You can retweet it at Donald Trump or at your local politicians in your country, but it's very important. So let's get rolling with this. And the reason why it's important is, as soon as we start telling politicians that they are affected, that's when we start seeing differences. So politicians and their wives. Now, I sent a couple of tweets to back this one up. If you like them, you know, I actually sent it straight to Donald Trump. I'm not messing around. I'm sending it to the US, Inc.'s CEO. And I said, neuroweaponry is being used on you and your family with 100% likelihood. And I'm absolutely certain about this. I think the White House is the most neurotech place on earth. So I said, you too need to have yourself and your family members scan for covert chip implants and learn about the phenomenal power of manipulation from modern neuroweaponry. If you guys agree, and you agree with backing me up on this campaign of bringing it home to politicians, then please start retweeting this one and start sending similar tweets to other politicians. Okay, the other points to keep in mind are, for example, here, this is what I said to Donald Trump: the Secret Service is not going to protect you against neuroweaponry, because they can't. Whatever they say about jammers, I'm pretty sure it's not going to work when you have directed beams being aimed straight at the head. And that's because, as far as I know my physics and quantum electrodynamics, right, photons do not couple to photons to first order. It means that you can't use electromagnetic radiation to block out electromagnetic radiation, right? So forget it. What you can do is you can confuse the chip implants with a jamming signal, yeah, but if the signal is so strong it overrides it, you know, forget it. But anyway, the other more important point is also, it is not in the interest of the controllers, right, to protect Donald Trump from neuroweaponry. In fact, what's really in the interest of the controllers is to keep the sky under continuous neuroweaponry influence 24/7. So politicians like him need to learn, just like every victim had to learn, to tell your own thoughts apart from synthetic thoughts that have been implanted. Now, every single victim understands what I mean by this. Anybody who's never been neuroteched really doesn't know what the hell this batshit lady, crazy lady is talking about. But I'm telling you, you can be neuroteched and you won't even notice. So this is super important. And I think these are important messages to get to these politicians. Please retweet it so that it, shows up on Donald Trump's Twitter feed. But let's start tweeting it at other important politicians as well. Okay. And then, yeah, the final one, this is actually a very good point, and it leads on to a broadcast I will do another time. I said, to Donald Trump, ask yourself this: why did you make Gina Haspel head of the CIA? And why did you make William Barr the Attorney General when he worked for the CIA during the Church Committee hearings? Remember, the Church Committee hearings were the ones where MK Ultra was revealed and supposedly shut down, which it wasn't, right? So we've got this dude being the Attorney General who was deeply involved, right, with the CIA during the time of this MK Ultra bullshit. And now we have a massive scandal about neurotechnology. Is this a good thing? I don't think so. Meanwhile, Gina Haspel, a full-blown psychopath, has been made the head of the CIA. This is not in the interest of the Americans. This is not even in the interest of Donald Trump, because the CIA will fuck him 12 ways to Sunday. This is a really bad combo. So if he can't answer these questions, I think he better appoint somebody trustworthy to look into neural weaponry and targeting. If you agree, please retweet, because we need to get it into the heads of people that this is, very, very, very important. Now, okay, so I wanted to push these tweets specifically because they contain extremely important points. If you want a breakthrough to shut down targeting, we need to get through to these politicians. And I think Ben Thompson has made an excellent point, right? What are the safeguards, right? And this last point about the CIA comes from him, right? So, that is something we need to start pushing, because I personally do not like the constellation I'm seeing. I do not like Gina Haspel as the head of the CIA, combined with Justin Kavanaugh, who I'm convinced is a freaking Jesuit, right? And I do not like this William Barr dude who was involved with the fucking CIA, right? That looks to me like one unholy alliance here. And to me, it very much looks like the deep state is getting the chess pieces ready for the American Holocaust. So when I hear all this talk about the wall being built urgently and, the troops being brought back from Syria, which is great, by the way, I really like that, right? The US pulling out and stop, running amok around the planet. That's a good thing. But I also know that when you have a sprawling military, you need to give these big, dumb, psychopathic dudes something to smash up, okay? Or else they will smash up the base at home. So where are they going to be deployed next? I think at home. Okay, so hang on. You are building a wall and you're bringing your military home. Oh, and by the way, you changed the law that the military can be deployed on American soil. Well, to me, it looks like one big American genocide in the making. And you have the wall to keep all the Americans in. This time it's the American refugees who can't leave, not the, immigrants and refugees from other places who can't get into the US. That's what it looks like to me. If you wanted to pull off an American genocide, you would have exactly the situation that we have now. You would want to have a total, absolutely, unfeeling, psychopathic potential serial killer like Gina Haspel as the head of your CIA. You would want to have a full-blown Jesuit as your Supreme Court appointment, right? You would have an attorney general who's so deep with the CIA, he's basically got CIA tattooed on his rear side, right? You've got that. Then you would want to bring home the military. You would want to change the law so that you can deploy the military against Americans domestically. This is unprecedented, right? And then you would want to have the US Space Command to keep shooting people up, like in California. You would want to have their satellite-based laser weapons just burning everything to a crisp. Yeah, well, that's what we have right now, right? And you would want to expand the targeting program, which is exactly what we have now. So where exactly are the good news in all this Make America Great Again? Make America, a big, great fuck up again? This is what it looks like to me. So I do not like these appointments in the least, right? I think what America needs is to get rid of all the fucking Jesuits and all the fucking Masons, right? ASA fucking P. You need to have politicians who are not billionaires and gazillionaires, right? Who maybe have some brain matter, and maybe have excelled in what they have done for civil society so that people can trust them. Unless you have that, you still have the mafia oligarchy running your country. You still have the Operation Paperclip Nazis running your country. So please, this is what you guys need to look for. The other thing that you guys need to know is just the stranglehold the Masons hold on your country. So I want to show you a map, and let me bring it up again. Masonic Lodges map. Yes. So I just typed, let me share my screen and let me show you to really, and it's in conjunction with this and Psychopaths that I want you to watch They Live on BitChute, on that BitChute channel. Okay, so let me share my screen. This is to give you an understanding for how big the problem is. Now, this image here is a map of all the Masonic lodges in the state of Indiana. It looks like this. Now, tell me who is running the state of Indiana, right? It's these fucking Masonic lodges. The whole point about the Masonic lodges traditionally is to organize the men into a little loyalty scheme, whereby they keep going and keep climbing the ranks, and most importantly, doing exactly what their handlers in the higher ranks tell them to. Okay, so to me, it looks like the entire state of Indiana is under deep capture from a big global organized crime cartel, because the Masons are not just in the US, they are worldwide. Okay, and you can go through and you can find all the other, here, the Grand Lodges. What's this? Sorry, the map is not very sharp here. Philadelphia. Okay, I'm pretty sure there's some missing here. But you can go through around the world and find a map of all the Masonic lodges. I mean, here, this one about Indiana was really breathtaking, right? Look at this. And this is one club, guys. This is one global club. So what you need to understand, right, and this is a very important point. If I want you to take away anything from today's broadcast, it's this. The Masons, which are front for global Vatican Intel, otherwise known as the Jesuits. So the Jesuits, together with the Masons, are one organization, Vatican Intel, okay? Now, Vatican Intel, or the Masons, for short, are the biggest nation on earth. It's not the Chinese, it's the Masons. Because a lot of Chinese are in the Masons, and a lot of Americans and Europeans are in the Masons. So the Masons pull the Chinese, the Americans, and the Europeans together. Okay, do you understand? So when you map it in terms of the men, because it's a men-only club, the Masons are the biggest nation on earth. So when these people, like the heads of MI6, who are Royal Arch Freemasons, talk about national security, guess which nation they are referring to? They do not mean Britain. They do not mean America. National security, in their lingo, means specifically the nation of Freemasons. Do you understand? Because as soon as you realize this, everything that they're saying makes sense. Why would you possibly want to have a targeting program against innocent people for national security? Well, if these innocent people start getting on Twitter and blowing your, millennia-old systems to shits, you need to kill them. And that's what they're doing for national security. If you want to preserve your corrupt money-making schemes like drug trafficking, human trafficking, the sale of arms, pharma and pharma-induced illnesses, right? What you would have to do is you would want to have false flags, political control, propaganda, and you would do all these things for national security, for the security of your own nation. Do you understand? So, Sir John Scarlett, head of MI6, is a Royal Arch Freemason, as it was revealed by those whistleblowing pages I showed you a long time ago. When he talks about national security, he doesn't mean Britain. He means the Masons. Okay? So if you hear any police officer or any intel person in Indiana talk about national security, then understand that what he means is that little map I showed you that was filled with Masonic lodges. He means the best interests and the well-being of that club. Now, this also explains why women and children are thoroughly fucked in these programs, because women and children don't have access to the Masons. Yes, I know the women have the Eastern Star, but I mean, let's be honest, that's just not really something to be taken seriously, is it? It's like kind of like the knitting club version of the Masons. Yeah, well, something for the wives of Masons to get busy in and bake cakes with, arsenic in it or whatever, arsenic-laced cakes for the Jesuits. Maybe that's what they do. I don't know. But really, it's about the Masons. It's an all-male club. Okay, so national security, when you hear any intelligence person talk about national security, they mean the well-being of the Masons and their dicks. So whatever benefits Masons and their dicks is going to be great. So this is why there's so much rape going around and so much killing going around, because it's fun for these guys. And they call it national security. So that, to make that clear. Okay, now this is enough for today, right? I blasted you with a lot of information and I'm very, very sorry, but I hope it was for the best. What I wanted to say is, so one thing I wanted to say is how I can help you further and then how you can help me further. Let me share my screen. Now, everything I am putting out there that is important for the survival of victims is for free. And it's just out there. However, because we're running out of time and there are many people who have a lot more money than they have time, so there are victims who have a lot more time than they have money, and there's the other way around, a lot more money than they have time. If you are in this category that you really don't have time, I can help you directly with your personal case in individual one-on-one consulting and counseling sessions, okay? Now, what I earn there is being funneled straight back into court cases because that's what I'm working full time. So by you helping to support me and me earn a living through this, you benefit court cases as well. And then this way we can, this is why I chose to do this sort of consulting, even though really my consulting business was about complex systems, okay? Complex computer system, complex anything systems, okay? But right now I'm doing also consulting about targeting. So this is how I can help you, okay? So you can book individual sessions. And one of the things that was very popular was when I had a sale. That was just half an hour express consulting. For the really poor victims, I'll do express consulting as well. And then I'm just talking to you personally about your case, right? And I'll continue doing that. But for other people, my standard rates apply, okay? So I can help you directly. Now, this is how I can help you. You can help me also by occasionally throwing an eye onto my Holocaust diary here. And you can reach the Holocaust diary from my front page. I have put it in here. If you scroll down here, it's this one, okay? Now, what I started doing, this is my logbook, but I keep it here. It's like every day, okay? So 23rd of January and so on. And I upload here things that I do and problems I run into. And I'll do it much, much more. And I'll also start going back in time. You can see over the Christmas period, I uploaded a small selection of all the evidence videos I did where you can see and hear the machine gunning. This is how I was utterly shot to bits over Christmas, okay? So I think there's one video up, but I made like a dozen of them, okay? Now, if you go to this video and you right-click, copy the video URL, open a tab, and then paste the video URL, you can see the original video. Oops, sorry, this is an ad. Sorry, let me just keep the ad running and then skip it. But you can always click on show more. And what I started doing is I started writing down every single minute mark or second mark where you can hear the shots. Okay, these are impact sounds from machine gunning with pulsed energy projectiles. And this is me sleeping, okay, over Christmas with aluminium on my head and the baking tray. And I filmed this for 1 hour while I was sleeping. And it's important that I start sleeping because as soon as I start drifting off to sleep, my head chips signal how my brain waves change and the machine gunning goes nuts. So as I fall asleep, sometimes the shots become so loud that this baking tray reverberates. So because I've been gunned for 3 years and particularly hard the last 2 years, I had to learn how to sleep with a baking tray on my head. And I had to sleep, this is here, lead blanket, this red stuff. I had to learn how to continue breathing under lead blanket that is so heavy. it just, you know, basically almost rendered me unconscious when I first started putting it on me, you know. So what I'm saying is you can see how you can collect evidence, and you can also start learning what these impact sounds sound like. You can actually hear the goddamn machine gunning. Okay, it's right here. So you can reach, I will start being much more systematic about it, but you can follow what is being done to me day in, day out. And you can also start writing a similar logbook online, but you should also write it on paper so that they don't just delete it, you know? So that's why you should write one on paper as well. But the point is that should I get locked out from Twitter or YouTube or whatever, you can always check up on me. Okay, because I have been actually blocked from Twitter for a week and a bit. I was actually blocked for a bunch of tweets that I'll show you next time. And it was all to do with shooting people in the head using military law. And, you know, it was like, oh, no, you can't say that. Well, actually, as a matter of fact, I can, because this is part of military law. I can appeal for the rule of law, and the death penalty is part of the rule of law. And I can appeal for the death sentence for war criminals who have assaulted me. So, but that's the point I need to argue in court against YouTube and Twitter, you know, that's for another day. But the point is, if I get locked out, or if other victims get locked out, you need to have many more platforms when you keep people up to date. So all I wanted to say is if I'm offline or out of touch and you're really concerned, you can log in and watch what is happening to me on the Holocaust Diary. And also, you know, because not just like, oh, I'm so important, you should all watch me. I'm also doing it so that you can use it, referencing your own evidence and say, look, I have these audio recordings of me being shot in the head and you can hear it. And look, here's Katherine Horton proving exactly the same thing in her videos. Or I will start uploading the trolls. You can say, look, here are my trolls, and they're doing exactly the same thing that they're doing to Katherine Horton. So you can do it with your full self-interest in mind. Okay, so it's not just about me, it's about something that you can reference about the typical assaults that are being done against victims. This is why I'm doing it. From my natural disposition is not to be an exhibitionist, and it actually was a huge process to go online and to be really open and to really show myself and show myself sleeping and being assaulted and show myself mutilated. This does not come natural as to a woman, but I realized that we are in a war. This is a silent Holocaust, and somebody has to bite the bullet. Okay, somebody has to just put it out there and start talking openly about rape and about everything else that they're doing for other people to take the courage to come forward. So what I'm saying is, if you do the same, you will mobilize people who are like you and identify with you. So if you are a lawyer or an IT professional and you start coming forward, human nature is such that they are much more likely to come forward if they are similar to you and identify with you. So in other words, a lawyer can make other lawyers open up, and an IT professional can make other IT professionals open up, which is why we need everybody to start coming forward, okay? Because there will be people who are like you in some sort of way, either because of your educational background, because of what you do, your profession, with how you express yourself, because of your opinions or your ethnicity or your religion, or because you're gay or because you aren't gay or because you're black or because you're white. It doesn't matter. There will be markers about you that other people will identify with. Not everybody identifies with me, right? Some people can't stand me, and that's okay, right? That's totally fine. But then to help them to come forward, they need people like them to come forward. Okay, so this is why it's so important that you all come forward. And this year I will finally make good on a promise I made a long time ago, which is to teach you, or show you really, there's not much to teach, to be honest, to show you how I'm doing my interviews and how I'm uploading my videos to YouTube. I can tell you it's piss easy. Okay, kids do it because it's so easy. So, you know, you need to take courage and you need to start uploading your videos as well. And I want to show you how to do that. So, but anyway, I have just reached 100 viewers. I picked a time when neither Europe nor America was really awake. So it's my fault really for broadcasting now. But I realize as people are waking up, more people are joining. But unfortunately, the broadcast is coming to an end. I'm very sorry. Please see it from the beginning. It's some important information. And yeah, thank you for listening. I think I said everything I said that I set out to say. Yes, the one thing I want to iterate as my final message to you, it is your responsibility to inform your part of the network. In other words, your network, if you start thinking in terms of, well, it's a bit akin to the graph that William Binney is talking about, right? But just kind of map yourself as a little node in a big sea of network connections. You're connected to your parents, your friends, the people you work with, your neighbors, and people in your clubs or people you hang out with. So that's your reach. In social media, you might have a vaster reach. People might follow you who are on the other side of the planet. That's also your network. And for us to be able to shut down this genocide globally, each one of us has to inform, right? Inform, educate, and mobilize our networks. These are three things. Number one is first just tell people information. That's the informing bit. It doesn't mean that they're taking it on board or that they even accept it or believe it. That's step number one, inform. Step number two is educate. Give them the references, point them to videos, keep at it, okay? Maybe you have to work them for a year. That's the educating bit. And the third bit is the mobilizing. That is when you can say to your neighbors, look, I'm going to court. If you want the directed energy weapon gunning to be stopped in our neighborhood, you better turn up and support me, right? You better sit there in the public gallery and show numbers, because actually in court cases, bums on seat make a huge difference. In very, very corrupt cases, the judges absolutely hate when people turn up. When the public turns up, that's like, you know, that's really bad because they suddenly feel watched. In good court cases with good judges, they have absolutely no problem. They are glad that the public is watching because actually that pressure on them is a counterbalance against the pressure of perhaps their corrupt boss in the Department of Justice. So a good judge can go to his boss and say, look, we really can't pull anything shady in this one because the press was there and all these people were there. They're watching. It's going to have devastating consequences, you know? So bums on seats make a huge difference in court cases and in other things as well in public life, you know? So, but you can reach this stage where you can mobilize your neighbors only if you have informed them, you have educated them, and then you're ready to say to them, right, now I need you. I need you to drive me there or do this or do that, but I need you to do something. And when it's about the active doing, that's the mobilization. And it's your duty to mobilize them, okay? So, oh yes, final word. Talking about neighbors and mobilizing them. If you don't know how to, there's already a template, okay, about this. Let me share my screen a final time. Right, okay, so on the Stop 007 site, if you scroll down, stop007.org, scroll down to Burning Down the House of Crime. These are the campaigns, and here you will find the Inform the Neighborhood and the flyers. And these are flyers you can print out, and here's explained the big neighborhood campaign that I have run with my neighborhood. And this is the old neighborhood where I used to live. And these are 500 homes that I have informed with very detailed letters in German. And I have my letters here, the template in German and in English. You can click on it, you can download it. It's in the open office format. Okay. And you can actually look at the PDF here and you can go through and see. I also have diagrams. I explain how microwave weapons go through 3 walls easily. And I explain how even if your neighbors are not direct victims, they still get shot at through back reflections. And I also explain a lot more about the technology, about the range of these things, how they work, and the genocide plans, okay? And how, for example, the numbers in Switzerland are going to be reduced by 30%. So every third Swiss is to be murdered within the next 5 to 7 years. I thought my Swiss neighbors should know. So anyway, so here are templates, and here you can find out how you can inform your neighborhood right now. And what I'm telling you is it took me courage to inform my neighbors, but I stand by it. As a physicist, I'm 100% certain that there's a huge health danger to all of them, even if they're not direct victims, and they need to know about that stuff, okay? So, as I said, it's your responsibility to inform your network, entirely yours. You have to inform your doctors, your parents, your neighbors, your social network on social media, and your friends. And the time to do it is now at the start of 2019, because by the summer or even by the spring, you will need their full support. And I tell you from my own experience, even the people who love you will take months, if not maybe a year or so, to wrap their head around. So you have to keep being persistent. You have to keep bringing it up, even though they hate you for it. And you have to just keep going, keep going, keep going. And eventually they all understand, okay? So that's all I wanted to say. This is how to get started. And there's much, much more coming, but I want you to start picking up speed. Do the measurements, find out how to collect evidence, you know, get on Twitter, start retweeting, start liking, start, you know, using consultation sessions now rather than leaving it till later, because in spring, court cases are coming and yours needs to be one of them. Okay, so that's all I wanted to say for now. Thank you very, very much for listening. Know that I'm working very hard to do my best for you, and there will be huge progress soon. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.